We'll go into caucus, we'll have them turn the camera off, and then we'll be back 10 minutes. Okay? Thank you.
What's that?
6.6.
Okay, and then down to 6.7, again, referencing BOLI, kind of updating what we had for breaks. Unfortunately, we've also been in a situation where we've had employees having to take their break, like at the very start of their shift. They've been there for 10 minutes, they're on a break. I understand that the scheduling is difficult, but we also want to be honoring the spirit of what a break is supposed to do. And so we have crossed out the original break language and added that each employee shall receive a 15-minute break for each segment of 3 hours or major portion thereof worked in one work period of consecutive service, with the break coming as close as practical to the middle of the work segment. Such breaks shall be designated and scheduled by the supervisor. It is prohibited for any employer to allow employees to add the rest period to a meal period or deduct rest periods from the beginning or end of an employee's work shift. And then we've added the chart, the recommended chart for that.
Under section 6.8, it talks about how the schedule of this should be given to the employee before this, prior to the start of their workday, so they know what their schedule is. The schedule may be flexible, but the employee's expectation is that proper coverage would be provided during those windows of time. Under BOLI, you might occasionally have something happen and coverage can't be provided and somebody misses a meal or break. They get that time paid for, either 15 minutes added to the end of their shift, or their 30-minute unpaid lunch becomes a 30-minute paid lunch. However, you have to have a plan that they actually get those meals and breaks. It can't be a routine thing that they would just not get a meal or break. And what makes it so that it is planned and routine is that coverage is provided. If you just don't have a plan to provide coverage and somebody is just never getting their meal or break, that's a violation of BOLI. And so we just want that very clearly listed in 6.8.
And that subset 681, to further clarify that, we've added that, for example, if employee monitoring radios or other communication devices, it's not counted as an uninterrupted break, and the time should be paid for that.
Yeah, and unfortunately, we think there may be some places in the district where employees are asked to monitor a radio throughout their meals and breaks. And if that's the case, then those people need to be given a full paid lunch, and they need all those 15-minute breaks tacked on at the end of their workday as additional paid time because they had an interrupted break. And right now, we're concerned that the district may be in pretty heavy violation of BOLI already. And so we would like to see a commitment to not violate BOLI and make sure that those meals and breaks are uninterrupted, that we don't have radios on those folks. Oh, yeah, and so then 6.10, this is about callback pay. So the current language talks about that classified employees could be required by the district to return to work after completing a shift, that they would get 2 hours of pay at the employee's regular rate. So let's say you leave your shift and then it's, for reasons other than the employee's own negligence. So you finished your day perfectly, and then your boss calls you and says, oh gosh, you've got to come back in. A pipe is leaking. I don't know, something. They say, oh my gosh, we need you to come right back in. If you left work and then you had to drive back in, even if the thing you're doing takes only like 15 minutes, you drove all the way back. So so the current contract language is that they get 2 hours, but we would like to propose that they would get 3 hours. We've got folks who are traveling 45 minutes each way. So to only get 2 hours when you're driving 45 minutes is a lot. And then also that they be paid at the overtime rate. This is after they've already left for the day again. Regardless of whether they've worked 40 hours, the district has kind of been taking advantage of a lot of folks who they're not given an FTE that puts them at 40 hours. So then they're making them come in after their normal work day for these extra things, and they're not actually earning overtime during that time. So we'd like to propose that be overtime, whether you've doing 40 hours that week or not, because again, this is a huge inconvenience to the employee to have to drive back into work or take the bus back in or whatever means of transportation they're using.
Okay, and then the next section, the intermittent virtual or remote work. Employees can volunteer to be on a list for intermittent virtual or remote work when they are contacted for a work-related question outside their scheduled hours or work that be completed remotely. They'll be guaranteed a minimum of 1 hour of work for each call at the overtime rate, even if the employee has not worked 40 hours during the work week. Kind of that same idea that if we're being contacted outside of our normal hours, we should be compensated fairly for that. And the district shall not call employees who are not on that call list.
Under 6.12, working on a paid holiday, we're proposing that somebody should be guaranteed double time, like double pay if you work on a holiday, and that you get a minimum of 3 hours of pay because it's interrupting your holiday. So, you're in the middle of Christmas dinner and you come in to only get paid for half an hour would be a huge inconvenience and burden on that person. And so we should get at least the 3 hours of pay, and it should be at double time when you're interrupting a holiday.
Okay, and then 613, we're proposing on-call pay. If employees volunteer for on-call work, they will be paid at the rate of $5 per hour for all time required to be on call. If there are multiple volunteers, an equitable rotation system will be provided. The district cannot require an employee to be on call. And then see the inclement weather below for everything related for inclement weather.
6.14, this has to do with employees working split shifts, where a layover does not exceed 30 minutes, then that time would be paid through. If the layover is over 30 minutes, the employee would clock out and that time would not be paid through. I think this might have come from current practice or even the bus manual for the transportation department, but anything that's a mandatory subject, we're moving into the CBA. So 6.14, I believe, is capturing current practice. So please correct me if I'm wrong.
Okay, 6.15, inclement weather. So we have struck out the current policy that's a current contract language. And we have proposed an emergency response team. So 615 on page 7. At the beginning of the school year, the employer will gather a list of volunteers from all facility staff, which includes custodial, maintenance, and technology, to be on an on-call list for after-hours emergency response support. Staff requested to respond to situations will be paid double time for the hours worked, and staff that report will receive a minimum of 2 hours of paid double time. And the purpose of this is to support an emergency response. So we've listed some examples there: vandalism, pipe leaks, roof leaks, HVAC failures, cybersecurity, decontamination, facility fire, and bus and vehicle emergencies.
Yeah, and just for ease of presentation, this particular version that we have printed for you, all that you see here was in management's proposal on inclement weather, except for where there's italics. All of it is underlined and in red because all of it is a change to the current collective bargaining agreement. So all of it is a proposal from us of what we'd like to have in the CBA. But if you want to see what's different from your version.
That's what I was trying to figure out, so thank you.
Yeah, look for the italicizing. So like in those list of examples that Angela was just sharing, we thought, it's important to add cybersecurity, decontamination, facility fire, bus vehicle emergencies. We think that management also views those as probably part of the list. We just wanted to make sure it was clear for everybody involved. And then for 6.16, the addition we've added there in italics is really our very important ask is that the district make decisions by 5 p.m. the day prior.
Do you know a district that does that? Because weather doesn't always seem to flow that way.
Yes, what we've seen is most of the districts we observe around us are making their decision the night before. And so our ask is that the decision.
Really?
Yes.
So I'm on a text strand with the superintendents, and we sometimes can make a early delay because it's not always predictable, but I don't know anybody who's done by 5. No one.
When our bargaining team talked, we felt like we had seen the vast majority of districts announcing the night before. I can go back through news
Typically,
reports
if
from all
we
the other
can, we would love to
districts
do that, Amber. Like, if we can, we like to give people some notice, but very often weather is unpredictable.
Sure, and we're happy to hear whatever
Okay.
you have to present on this
Okay.
when you give your counter proposal.
Okay.
But for right now, what I'd like to be able to explain is that our team talked and we felt like the district needs to make a decision the night before, just, so that all of our folks can be safe to make plans for travel or not travel. And honestly, for all of our students and families, it's really stressful having those decisions made the morning of. So that's our ask on this proposal. And so throughout the rest of these sections about inclement weather, you'll see that we've modified it based on the idea that the decision would be made the night before to prioritize the safety and planning needs of staff and the associated impact on the larger community. And so then down in letter B, we've switched it from 5:30 a.m. to the 5 p.m. by the day before.
Okay, and then in section 2, the building custodian weather support, down at the start of line 8, when we have added is when a delayed start is converted to a cancellation and an employee has already arrived at work, then that language would apply. The employee may choose to stay on site for up to 4 hours and receive double pay, or the employee can choose to depart and receive double pay for the time worked on an exemption time card.
And then under number 2, lines 5 through 12, the building custodian weather support, the modification we made there is that,
It's red.
oh, you just did that one. Sorry, number 3, transportation, that we need it to be 60 minutes instead of 30 minutes when the drivers and attendants would get notice of a delay. And then the cancellation again is the target is 5 p.m. Earlier, depending on the shift start times. So if you have somebody who's starting, because we do have transportation drivers who are driving in the evening with trips and things. So we feel like 60 minutes is more fair. We do have members who live more than 30 minutes from their place of employment. And so I don't know if we would expect them to be breaking the law and speeding in bad weather, but 60 minutes seemed more reasonable.
And this started the shift time for the bus from 5:30 to 5 a.m. is because that is when the people start to arrive at the bus garage. So that's why we pulled that back. And then number 4, so all staff, what we have, again, added on line 24, that we would, announce any delays and closures by 5 p.m. the day prior, and from changes from that 5:30 a.m., to provide timely communications to staff in the associated impact on the larger community. Employees will receive double pay for the time worked before the delayed start time. When a delayed start is converted to cancellation and an employee has already arrived at work, the employee may choose to stay on site for up to 4 hours and receive double pay, or the employee can choose to depart and receive double pay for the time worked on an exemption time card in the next pay period. The district retains the right to send any employees home due to emergency conditions, but must do so equitably for all employees not on the emergency response team. And then specifically for evening shift employees, that they will be given at least 60 minutes notice of delays or cancellations of shifts.
Yeah, so then on the next page, 9, for 2-hour delays, I believe we were in agreement with all the language there except for the employees would receive announcement as close to 7 a.m. as possible. This has to do with the 2-hour delays. And then also,
And time owed.
yeah, the start times are delayed 2 hours without loss of pay, leave, or time owed. So we've had some employees actually told you owe time back. And we don't think that someone should ever owe time back when it has to do with an inclement weather event where the district is telling them, don't do this. So we made that clear there on line 3 of time owed is also not one of the things that would happen.
And then on 6, we've added in line 7 that it's the responsibility of the district to make decisions on delays and cancellations the day prior to delays or cancellations. And again, just going back to the fact that when responsibility for employees to know, it oftentimes is announced en route or after employees already there. So just trying to prohibit that from happening.
Number 7. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so then for number 7, again, we wanted to reiterate that there would be no loss in pay, leave, or time owed due to the closures, the same as I mentioned before. And then also that in the event the district requires makeup days from all employees, the 12-month employees, with the exception of that weather team who work on the closure days, will receive paid time at their regular rate of pay for each day or time sent home due to those closures. So our 12-month employees are kind of put in a bad spot because everybody else is making up that day, but the 12-month employees are in a different spot where they would have been working that day anyways.
Okay, and then in section 8, again, line 30, adding that members shall not have any loss of pay, leave, or owe time because of an early release. And then on line 32, that in the event of an early release, evening shift employees will be given 60 minutes notice to not report to work and will not have any loss of pay, leave, or time owed.
So that's the end of our inclement weather section. But I did want to let Liz explain one more example of this.
So we definitely can give you an example of when other districts have called it beforehand. Anyone in our area can look at Albany Happenings, and there's a closure page, and everybody's putting it out. And I'm sure we can find screenshots that are sent to us saying, why hasn't our district called it when the districts around us have called it? And I just want to point out, when we're asking to call it, that could be a delay or, hey, pay attention, or, there's different things around there. But when we had our OSHA heat complaint, that was definitely a prime example that we communicated. We were worried about the heat. Other districts around called half days. We did not, and it was a problem for us.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Okay, so 617, the voluntary reduction in hours. So we've just kind of clarified the line 38, we took out insurance, so for all benefits, and then added the employee and the association. They shall notify if there's any risk of losing benefits for any voluntary reduction.
And then if you go to page 10, section 619, the date that our folks who are not 12-month employees, but everybody else, the date that they get notice about their worksite assignment for the following school year right now is July 1st. And that's making it really hard for our members to be able to plan and make decisions about their lives. And so we feel like it would be fair to give them the notice by May 15th. And then it says, in the event of a change after May 15th, the district would notify the employee within 7 calendar days of the change. Because we understand that sometimes there's very last minute changes with kindergarten enrollment or something else. And so you're always going to have those last minute changes. We feel like just saying as soon as possible, sometimes like other people have even heard about the change before our employee hears. So we feel like there needs to be a fair amount of time that you have to tell them once that change is in, and 7 days seems like a fair amount. And then again, the mass notice that goes to everybody about those decisions, we feel like May 15th is a fair date.
And our next change is right at the bottom of the page, 621. So workload, so talking about an unreasonable workload if an employee has a complaint, that they may request and have a meeting with their immediate supervisor. We crossed out including their administrator. That might not be the first person they're comfortable to discuss that with. And then into the next page, this is a big change for us. We're actually proposing a classified workload committee. And that the committee would be made up of 4 association representatives, the Director of Human Resources, and 2 other district management appointees, and the committee will make final determinations. An increase in workload may not be implemented until the workload committee has reviewed and approved the change. And that committee shall have the right to request and review any and all data related to workload for any employees and make adjustments. The committee shall hold its first meeting each year no later than October 1st, and the association president or designee shall facilitate the committee and be released 0.1 FTE as part of what is paid for by the district in Article 5 to prepare, set agendas, facilitate meetings, investigate workload issues, and keep the committee functioning. Thereafter, the committee shall meet at least once every month unless deemed unnecessary by a majority of the committee. The committee can call urgent meetings at any time if deemed necessary by a majority of the committee. And then we have put the core goals of that committee, and this is coming out of, I think, a lot of Liz's time has been having to deal with workload issues. And so we really believe that the goals of this committee should be to advise district on balancing workload and prioritizing safety, using qualitative and quantitative metrics, enforcing workloads that follow standards set by outside professional organizations such as OSHA and BOLI, review changes in workload for each department and building, provide additional staffing by allocating FTE to buildings unable to meet safety requirements due to runners, physical attacks, and safety incidents, review current staffing, vacancies, and long-term leaves of absence impact on workload, and then in the spring, assess and determine the number of floaters for each department and building for the following school year to employ, and help prioritize the use of floaters across the district throughout the school year. Give recommendations on the allocation of classified employees and total FTE allocations to prioritize the safety of students and staff, including an annual committee report approved and presented to the school board by members of the committee, and then establish and follow a set of bylaws over the functioning of the committee that are in compliance with this collective bargaining agreement.
Yeah, so this workload committee, we know this is a very important, big ask. And I think what you're seeing here is something, instead of us saying, we're going to go ahead and negotiate the workload rates for every department, that custodial can only do this many square footage, or food service can only do this many meals. Rather than bargaining all of those workload rates, we felt like a committee is a better space to be able to talk through that, because there's a lot of nuance. There's a lot of things that are complicated about workload. But if we're not going to have set established fair rates, then this committee needs to be, taken pretty seriously. It needs to have association representation on it. It needs to actually be facilitated. We see a lot of committees in this district they don't hold their meetings like at the normal times they're supposed to. The meeting is held and the information that's supposed to be brought or data that's supposed to be reviewed isn't ready to look at. Just like a lot of things don't happen, they fall through the cracks. And so that's why it's essential that we have actual FTE time dedicated to making sure everything is prepared, facilitated. Every time a department or an individual comes and says, oh my gosh, this is an overwhelming workload, I'm getting injured at work because my workload is so great, that there's a proper committee that has all the pieces in place to quickly gather all the data they need, review it all, and then be able to make actual plans to help those folks be safe with the workloads that they have. So this is a very important one. We hope that you'll, take very seriously and look at. The next section has to do with custodial expectations. This is current language that exists, but we felt like we needed to kind of just clean it up. A little bit of it is just grammar. Some of it is to make it more clear about exactly what should be happening. I won't go through all of those grammar changes, but I'll point out when you go to the next page on 12 at the top, we would like to add the sentence that custodial staff will be provided professional discretion to best utilize their time given the assignments delegated to them. There is an issue with micromanagement that could get to the point of our custodial staff actually being less efficient. And we know that we want our custodial folks to be able to do the very best job that they can. And if they are micromanaged to such an extreme level that they can't actually get their flow through the day to just get everything done, that's going to be a problem. And so we think that, respecting their professional discretion, they are the ones day in and day out doing this really hard work. And so we want to respect that they can figure out how to make sure they get it all done.
Okay, and 6:23 is prep time. So we're proposing that Every employee will have at least 15 minutes of prep time at the beginning of each workday. In addition, any employee who works with the educational small groups, intervention groups for students shall have an additional 15 minutes per workday to review materials and plans provided by certified employees, no more than 30 minutes total. Optionally, a building could provide extra prep time on some days and less on others, as long as it totals at least 75 minutes per week. We have found that employees in their expectations are all expected to read emails, to review the day, and not everyone is being provided time to do that.
Down on lines 25 through 29, our proposal is that we just move that to Article 8, Section 4. It seems like it would be more appropriate over there because it has to do with assistants meeting with teachers and reviewing IEPs, and Article 8 has to do with safety, and it talks about a lot of the behavior and IEP stuff. So it seems like one of our goals in the CBA is to try to get things a little more organized so it's easier for people to find things.
And then the next proposed change is 625, line 44. We just added that supervisors shall provide in writing all directions to postpone or eliminate work. This is in the double duty section.
Under 627, clerical assistants, we are proposing striking out the section that has to do with, this whole section has to do with elementary schools having additional clerical hours for doing all the student enrollment. And we're proposing striking out the section that says no school shall receive more than 40 hours. There is a calculation listed above of like how many students and how much time you might need. And so it seems odd that like when you reach the largest number, you would then just not give them any more hours. Like if you need to enroll the students, you need to enroll the students. And then it talks about the hours being deducted from the school's allocation at the same rate they're used. You know, however management sorts out your hours that's your business, but our folks need to just have enough time to get all that work done. So.
Okay, and then the add is 629, starting line 29, is just a move, the Transportation Department Manual. We felt it better fit in this section. It's from Article 2412. And again, a couple grammatical changes there. And then already the committee is established that reviews the manual. So we've just tried to clarify who would serve on that committee. So I had up to 3 district management representatives and up to 4 association appointees. So then adding if the district or committee makes any changes, then we'll notify the association in writing, and then added and reach mutual agreement with the association over changes. No changes to the manual being made that are in violation of the collective bargaining agreement without mutual agreement with the association.
I think one of the issues right now is that the CBA references this Transportation Department Manual that has some mandatory subjects of bargaining listed in the manual rather than in the CBA. And so, you know, as it's written, if association appointees and the district meet at any point, they could just change something that would violate the CBA. And that's deeply concerning to us, that like, if you want the CBA changed, it should come to this bargaining table. Wouldn't be fair to do it outside of this table.
As our proposed changes to Article 6.
Thank you. You want to go forward, or do you want us to share Article 25, 26?
We could do either. We're prepared. We have some more. That was definitely our lengthiest proposed. We do the articles that we're proposed, that we have initial proposals for are 20 paid leaves, 21 leave without pay, 22 paid holidays, 27 strikes, lockouts, 29 funding, 30 waiver and changes during the term of the contract, and 33 employees' rights, and 35 resignations.
Let's do them. Let's do them.
Let's go for it?
Let's keep going, and
Okay.
then we definitely want to have some time to present ours
Yes,
tonight.
absolutely.
That's over here.
Okay, so we will pass out Article 20, paid leaves.
Just so you guys know, dinner's ready whenever, so whenever you want to take a break.
Okay.
Let's stay
All
with
right.
it for a little bit, though.
Yes, keep going. Really, in this section, the paid leaves, a lot of it is just updated with the new OFLA, FEMLA language, making sure that we're compliant with that. So we'll get that out to you.
I think some of it also is, there's some changes made for our certified folks under leave, and it doesn't make sense to have an employer provide one leave to one group of employees and a different leave to the other. So we're trying to get some consistency there too.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you. You're gonna remind me. It sounds like it.
No, it didn't sound like it. I saw your stash of,
I keep going because every once in a while, I'm not kidding, I just cough for the day. It's bizarre. And notice, once I get them, so that's the stash.
So you should just point and decide.
That's good. Perfect.
He was a little worried. I said, just an allergy.
Oh, yeah. One
said I
quick
wouldn't,
note,
but you have
so these copies have the eco staple, so they're not a metal staple. So just everybody, please look at your copy and make sure it goes through page 7. If it doesn't go through page 7, then your eco staple may have failed you.
I know.
Yeah, on some of our thicker proposals, I did use the actual metal staples, so.
All right, so the start of our proposed changes in 20.1, starting in line 5. Again, we've just added that and/or anything else covered under OFLA, FEMLA, and/or paid leave Oregon. And we updated the term physician with medical provider. And then struck out time spent in preparation and caretaking functions will not be provided for under this provision, because now there are some provisions for that under new laws.
Letter B, we've struck out. It's somewhat unclear to us if this may actually be illegal to take a member's right away to seek litigation if there's an issue. And so right now it reads that the association and any employee using accumulated sick leave in connection with illness or injury will hold the district harmless. But we can't necessarily negotiate away the right of every single employee to seek litigation if that's what they would like to do. So we've struck out letter B.
Okay, then 21 was just a letter change. Moving down to line 34 for C. It had new employees will receive, we struck out the up to 10 days annual, just the sick leave, and it's as stipulated in section C. We did add in the first month of employees can use 1 day of their sick leave. By request, the employer may provide more days in the first month that will be deducted from their annual allotment with notice to the association. Unfortunately, things do happen. If we might have a new employee that just gets sick on the job, and we just want to make sure that they're not penalized immediately for that. So we struck out will be credited after 1 month completion.
Then under letter D, it's stipulating that an employee can elect to use their accrued sick leave in addition to benefits they receive under workers' comp or paid leave Oregon. Under workers' comp, you don't always receive full income replacement. And so sometimes people will use a little bit of sick leave to kind of top off whatever they're not getting through workers' comp. And the same with paid leave Oregon, although I'll say with paid leave Oregon, people may just want to use paid leave Oregon and their sick accruals at the same time, because paid leave Oregon is not exclusively for income replacement. Paid leave Oregon is also intended to be for other health-related costs. If somebody has to travel up to Dornbecker because their baby is in the NICU, they might need to pay for hotels or other costs, and so the paid leave Oregon can help offset that. And then they would need to use their sick leave accruals to replace their lost income. So this language is also the same as what was agreed to in the GAEA contract and reflects the current law of how you can use paid leave Oregon.
In letter E, We've struck out exhausted sick leave, and just employees who sustain an on-the-job injury or illness that qualifies for work comp. We added can take 1 to 3 days of workplace injury leave paid for by the district and will not be taken from the employee's paid sick leave accruals.
Under letter G, we're asking to increase the amount from 75 days to 1,200 hours of unused sick leave accumulated in a different Oregon school district being able to be transferred into the district if they were employed somewhere else in the previous year. We think that that number may not have been increased in a really long time. And then also that it should probably be hours instead of days, because people may transfer from, different lengths of shift between employers. And so the hours will be easier to make sure it transfers fairly.
Okay, and letter H, talking about how sick leave is paid out. We just have updated this language that was just agreed to in GAEA contract and struck out the language that we had previous, making sure that the employee returning from injury or illness of 3 or more consecutive days, or when there's a question of fitness for duty, that they may be required to submit a medical examination by a doctor mutually agreed upon by the employee. And I do see there's an error there. It says license, so we'll have to just fix that. So by the employee, so we would strike the word license.
On line 24, please
Yes.
strike that. We'll make sure that's fixed on the electronic copy.
And again on 27, the end of 27. Sorry about that.
Yep. For lines 34 through 37, we have had an issue with direct supervisors, building admin, leads, contractors who don't even work for the district, demanding that our employees hand over their medical documentation to them. That is potentially a violation of ADA privacy laws. That's a violation of their right to receive leave. It's a violation of the leave laws. You have to have a person who is allowed to look at medical documentation in the district, in HR, and those other folks are legally not allowed to be demanding and looking at that medical documentation. And I would not be bringing this example up if it hadn't happened actually repeatedly, over and over. So we want everyone in management to be educated and all our own members to be educated that you should never, ever be compelled to hand a doctor's note to a direct supervisor, and surely not a contractor that doesn't even work for this district. So this language on lines 34 through 37 is extremely important to us.
Okay, and turning to page 3. Line 2. So this is talking about if there's been an overpayment of paid leave from the district. We want to make sure that the payback plan, we've added the language that is over a period of time that is acceptable to the employee. We don't want an error, a district error, to cause a hardship to employees paying back an overpayment of leave.
Under letter J, we're proposing that the full value of unused sick leave could be added to the PERS benefits as determined by the employee. We understand that there's different requirements under PERS depending on which PERS plan you're in. And so that's why it still would be in accordance with that, right? On lines 9, it says in accordance with PERS administrative rules. And so we know that like PERS would dictate how exactly that gets done.
Okay, and then in K, section 2, just kind of clarifying that if employees assess their health at the work, that it's the district may, at the district's expense, ask for medical certification, and this would be provided through human resources. Again, would not be required by a supervisor.
Yeah. Section 20.2, this has to do with our donation of days. So this is when an employee donates a sick day or more sick days to another employee. And so I think this first section, lines 21 through 23, is just trying to word it a little better. I don't think there's any substantive change there. And then under letter A, I don't think we're actually doing some kind of signing of a release form. Current practice is that they just put in that request. And so I think we're trying to capture that in letter A as current practice.
Okay, and then in section B, again, this is now defining a serious health condition. And so we already know that now Paid Leave Oregon and the OFLA defines that for us. So we took out the definition and would like to just include the definition over those. Those are provided.
Yeah, those definitions evolve over time and have changed and will probably continue to change. And so we thought we should just reference them and rather than listing it all out. And then under letter C, this has to do with like once they've received approval, the association would send out that appeal to ask our members, hey, will you donate days? And our issue we're having right now is that we don't know what's happening. There's a lot of lack of information. And so we would like it stipulated that the number of hours donated would be based on the length of the workday for the person making the donation. And the member requesting donated days would be notified of the number of hours that were donated while donations are being received at a minimum on a weekly basis. We have members who they're trying to make major life decisions about huge medical issues and whether they can afford to stay out on leave or come back to work under really hard conditions. And for them not to know if there's more hours available to them or not is really hard. And so we felt like at least once a week we could let them know, yes, there's another week's worth that have been donated or not.
So just a question. You're not asking a bank for a single person and that person's hours. There's a general bank, right?
No, not for us. So the way it works is a member sends me an
So
email.
it's for that person.
Yes, and then I say to HR, hey, this member has asked for donations. HR does all their stuff with the medical stuff to see if they qualify. Then it comes back to me. I send it out to everyone, to all classified, and then we never know how many days have been, we don't know. The member who asks doesn't know, and so we're just seeking clarification on the back end.
Thank you.
And that goes into letter D, that we're asking for the district to provide to the association the list of names of those that donated and the total amount of hours donated, and then also provide to the association a summary of how many hours were collected in the donation and how many were allocated to the person who requested them. Just really trying to get some information and clarification. And I know as a person that's donated, I have no idea like how many hours when I sign the paper of when it's taken, who it's taken, and was there a confirmation?
Yeah. And we have folks who are concerned that like they may have had the hours deducted because they said, oh, I'll donate this many. And then they weren't actually maybe utilized or given to the person. And then do they just go back into the district's general fund? Did they just give away their sick days for free back to the district? Like that's the feeling it leaves people with if we can't give them an accounting of this is how many were taken, this is how many were used, and that those hours would remain with the person if they, don't get used. Because it is a direct donation. It's not a pool. They don't just sit in the pool and then go to the next person that comes along.
So let's say that we have a person who is sick and you send it out and we have 7 different individuals give a day. And the person is better and only uses 3. Who gets the days back?
Our proposal is that the person should keep, like,
We have no idea, which is why
Okay.
we're asking.
yes, we think
No,
that,
I mean, so
Right, is it a first come, first serve?
people that
Right.
donate, did they lose their days and the last 4 get the day back?
No idea.
Yeah.
I
Lisa gives
can't,
it back.
we cannot answer
Prorated?
that question.
Elisa
gives it back to the-
Elisa gives back the unused hours.
yeah, the problem is our members don't know. So this is asking for
Yeah.
notice.
How do we give it back, though, that it's not like,
It's a sick leave bank she adds.
and it prorates it out and she returns
She
it?
does it. She
Okay.
So if you all have like a better way of wording this to describe the
Okay.
process and what
Yeah.
happens that will assure our members that none of their sick days are just getting taken from them and
Okay.
then disappear back into the general fund. If you can word it in a way to make sure that intent is
We'll verify
captured,
like what that practice looks
Yeah.
like and how, well, it's, like how much is being left over.
that would be great. Yeah.
Okay.
Because again, it isn't a pool, so it's
Yeah.
not just like, okay, it'll be there for the next person. It just, people worry it just disappears.
That's
Yeah.
fair. Okay.
E2?
Yeah, so I think that's, E. So under letter E, it talks about how a bargaining unit member, at their sole discretion, may donate. And current language is, it says a half day or a full day on each occasion when approved request is made. We would like that to be, say, up to 5 vacation or sick days in half or full day increments. To say that each person can only give 1 day, we feel like that's not fair, it's not necessary. Unfortunately, in this world, bad luck seems to come in big batches to some people, and other people could go years without any major illness, anything. And so for people to be able to share more than 1 day to their fellow coworkers who are really struggling, we think would be more fair. So that's letter E.
Okay, and then again, F, kind of clarifying what those days look like. It says no member may use more than 60 days. And we've added based on the receiver's length of donated day, equivalent to the number of hours for 60 workdays for the person receiving the donation per qualifying event.
And then letter G, we're proposing just striking out. This section talks about the district will not be obligated to reimburse employees for unpaid time with donated days more than 1 month in arrears of the day the donation is received by the GAPS business office. So this has to do with like, somebody's been on a leave, we've been trying to sort out the donation, it takes time, and sometimes people don't even realize they've run out of leave. And so sometimes we are giving them donations that are more than 30 days back to try to make sure that person will be okay. Because also, we've got folks waiting on notice if workers' comp will cover something. And that can be delayed. So it could be more than 30 days. And we want to be able to help that person out if they thought they were going to get workers' comp and then they don't, and we're trying to help them. Especially when it's questionable, like this person might have been hurt at work and then workers' comp won't even cover them. Our coworkers want to be able to help them. So we want to be able to have it be more than the 30 days.
Okay. And then on G, we've just said that the donation days may be used for up to 12 months instead of through the fiscal year, understanding that if we do have a large medical event that someone's required to be out for, oftentimes those post-op appointments or checkups could happen well into the future, and want to be able to make sure that they can use that time donated for those purposes.
Yeah, it could be really hard if somebody has a health issue in June and people donate a whole bunch and then it's like, oh, sorry, it's July. Now you can't get access to any of that because the fiscal year changed. Okay, and then we have section 20.3 is bereavement leave. I think this is updating it again to match the certified, that like the bereavement leave doesn't specifically have to do with the funeral service. It has to do with mourning the death of a family member or household member. And so we've modified it to match that, and then listed how family member is defined by the Oregon Family Medical Leave Act.
And then in line 45, also that was added to the GAA contract, the bereavement leave for pregnancy loss and failed fertility treatments. So adding that section into to our agreement as well.
And then if you turn to the next page, on page 5, we have jury duty and court appearances. Lines 10 and 11, this just simply states the employee's pay would not be reduced due to the jury duty service compensation. It's like $10, and we honestly think it's probably more effort than it's worth to deal with all of that. And so we felt like it just shouldn't be reduced. Sometimes our members are using that $10 just to pay for transportation to get to jury duty. And so they still need, their normal pay, and then they need like bus fare, gas money, and all that kind of stuff. Or they have to arrange sometimes special childcare arrangements because the jury duty hours are different than their normal work hours. So they might even be paying for babysitters that are far more than that $10. Or maybe it's $15. I don't know what the current going jury
I think
duty
it's
rate
$10,
is.
and I actually served on a grand jury last year and declined it because I knew that I'm not supposed to take both. So I declined it. I got $70 because I had 7 days of taken out of my paycheck. So I ended up having to fight back to get my money I got deducted for taking jury duty. So that was frustrating. All right, and then 20.5, again, just adding that new language in for leave and protection for victims of certain crimes. So that's, again, language that's already been added to our counterpoint list, and so adding that in as well.
And this one we think is really important. We want to make sure everybody's aware of it. There is Oregon law that provides a whole list of accommodations and support that an employer should provide when somebody is struggling with domestic violence, sexual assault, stalking, all of those things. And so we want to make sure everybody's aware of those things. In my experience, the vast majority of people I've encountered who are in one of these terrible situations have no idea that these benefits exist. And so we hope that by putting it here, it will be there, and then also that they might approach HR and say, hey, can you help me with this? And that the employer would be committed to helping those folks provide all of those things, because during domestic violence and situations like that, one of the number one things that happens is that the victim ends up losing their job because they have so many things they have to go to in court, to move to a new home, all the things that they have to do. And when they lose their job, they're put in a really terrible position. So we hope that the employer shares that commitment to supporting our members during those hardest times.
And then 20.6 is a paid leave for absence due to testing, quarantine, or isolation. Again, if it's, if one of those reasons occur, we just don't believe that our employees should suffer a financial impact because of that. It's not to their, it was not their choice.
Yeah, and this does reflect the language that management agreed to with Certified, that is tied to if the district closes one of the schools, and it's for the duration of that school closure, which I believe was the compromise language that management agreed to. And then the next section is about paid personal leave. Our ask is that our personal days be increased, and so we are proposing increasing the amount kind of for each level. So we have 12-month employees. We'd like to propose they be increased to 5 paid personal days. For folks that work less than 12 months, to have 3 paid personal leave days. And then for the newly hired employees who work less than 12 months, there's kind of there's 3 different situations. One is where they begin work prior to January 1, that they get the 3 personal days. If they begin between January 1 and March 30th, they get 2 personal days. And then if they begin work after March 30th, they would get 1 personal day is what we're proposing. And are you want to do the next section?
Sure. And then down into 36, line 36, we just struck out that leaves may be denied when 2 or more employees in the same classification in the same building apply for personal leave in the same day. This is the only leave that happens, that we have for some of our folks, and so we don't believe there should be a restriction on when they get to use that leave.
Yeah, and then the next section, lines 38 through 44, details what will happen for, again, those increases for 10-month and 11-month employees. We're proposing that 10-month employees will get 3.5 personal days, and 11-month employees will get 4 personal days. So kind of, again, employees at 9, 10, 11, and 12-month would all get an increase in the number of their personal days. Yeah.
Sorry. And then line 45, starting there, just clarifying that employees would automatically receive the cash out of their unused personal days at the end of the year rather than having to request that.
Yeah. And then,
We go back to 38.
Line 38, okay?
It says in addition to the three days, can you explain that? Did you intend to say in addition to the 3 days? So I'm adding up 6.5 and 7. Was that the intent?
let us check with our team and clarify. Yeah, we can answer that.
Keep going.
Yeah.
Yeah. We also have a vacation day proposal, so we need to like check about that and how this combines. So we'll get back to you. Okay, and then on the next page, page 7, we've struck out lines 2 through 12. I believe because this is showing like a calculation for this, and we think it's like pretty much set on the prior page as to what the personal days are. So you don't need this calculation, I believe.
All right. And then so then going down to the bottom of the page, line 15, 20.8, that section. So starting on line 22, we've added that the employee retains their right to pursue grievances under Article 32, that any meeting completed as described above in this section with the supervisor and/or HR can fulfill a step 1 process if the employee chooses. The employee then has the option to file their grievance as step 1 or step 2. And this is if regarding if they're not receiving their proper leave benefits.
Yeah. So right now, this last section of this article looks like it's maybe saying this is how you resolve these disputes, maybe rather than the normal grievance procedure, but it's unclear, right? And so having a gray area of like, okay, they do this and they do a grievance, like it's unclear. So we hope that this makes it clear that like there's lots of leave issues where you really just need to go to HR, have our wonderful folks that work there show you your breakdown, look at the numbers, and maybe you resolve the issue. But if it doesn't resolve the issue, then the question is, okay, did that constitute a step 1 meeting? Did that not constitute? And so we felt like the member should be able to just decide like, okay, I feel like that was a step 1, and now I want to move on to step 2.
Those are our proposed changes to Article 20.
I would ask that we consider dinner, and then when we come back, then we can do our economics, and then we can finish with other things. If you-
Sure, that's
Does that sound
agreeable,
good? Okay. Go first.
All right, thank you.
For folks here observing, if you want to stick around.
Couple people getting back to the table here. All right, we're gonna go ahead and get started.
Come on, Angelica.
Jamie, don't quiet Cody.
Is it recording?
Okay.
Well, you tried, Jamie.
It's worth a shot. I didn't know if there was a.
All right, we'll give you guys, we have two things on the PowerPoint, which is kind of a summary context for the fiscal. And then following that, we have language in the article for compensation. And I think insurance as well. The articles will come. So obviously, you guys are aware that there's funding reductions due to decreased enrollment. Of course, this is very common in districts across the state. The trend that we see is continuing. So even now, 26, 27, which is next year, is rolled up almost 100 less students. So we will continue to see a decline in enrollment. The Long Range Facility Committee has an estimate of enrollment decline in the next 10 years. Liz is a part of that. And we see public schools across the state with similar, but we are projected to be somewhere around 7,200 kids in the next 10 years. Yeah,
Pardon me, so sorry. Are you going to send us the slide, or is it?
we can put it out.
Okay, excellent, thank you.
We have small schools in the district. How we present school there presents fiscal challenges. Decline in enrollment results in less basic school support funding and grant funding. And I think everybody here is aware there is a full-time enrollment student 1.0. There is a ELL student, you get an additional 0.5, 1.5, and so those funding weights are how we get our money. And as we decline in students, of course, we get less money. So decreased enrollment comes from several things. One of is the declines in actual births. And this is predicted from U.S. Census data to continue through 2036-37. Not all of our kids enroll in public schools that are born. And we have seen a decline in what's called our capture rate. We can know how many kids are born in this district, and then 5 years later, we see how many of them show up. We do not have the same capture rate that we formerly did. Charter schools and homeschools make up a larger portion of the population, although this region in the 2000 teens, Lynn Benton Lincoln ESD always had the highest percentage in the state of charter school enrollees and homeschoolers. So there's, something in the area, faith-based schools, those kind of things. So we're continuing to make choices to be competitive in the market, and we are not a monopoly. And as many of you guys may be aware, we are also beginning the process to examine school consolidation at this time. We are working on it with the Long Range Committee. We appreciate that Liz is on there and is aware, did attend the meeting in Tangent in support, and we appreciate that. These are our school populations, and this may be a little bit dated. Meadow Ridge is our biggest school, but we move along, and that may not be the same numbers, but what our average is across our schools is about 260 students in our elementary schools. 260 students creates a lot of challenges, not just in trying to get music teachers to take a job where they will travel to 3 different schools or something like that. They become less desirable. But it also becomes a challenge because when we have one secretary across 14 buildings, that secretary, for example, and I'm not picking on secretaries, there's a lot of different things, janitor, whatever, becomes very expensive per student the smaller your building gets, right? And so we are going to be forced to work on that issue as well. That is not a bargaining table issue. That is a community and board issue that we have to work through there. Here's our ADMR. Do you want to talk about that, Jane? I hand it off to you.
Sure.
Okay.
And just for clarification, the last slide showing the school numbers, that's our projected for 26, 27 school numbers. And this slide shows where we are in our ADMR, and it's the slope that is important in this slide because it continues. And already what I had projected for 26, 27, I'm going to have to correct. When Susie did the roll-ups, it was almost 100 less students just based on roll-ups because the classes coming in are smaller and the classes leaving our system are larger.
Will you remind them about ADMR versus bodies?
Oh, yes. And ADMR, that's our average daily membership regular, and that's how part of our funding formula. As Andy said, there's weights, and so we start with the ADMR, and that is the cumulative attendance of all of our students. And this document I like to use to explain, I've shared this with the board and I think long range, but it is off the ODE website. And because we're in declining enrollment, ODE helps us flatten out declining enrollment funding by allowing us to be paid the highest of 2 years. So currently for 25-26, we are paid on 24-25 enrollment. And for 26-27, we will be paid on 25-26. So when we receive these reductions in 25-26, they also affect us in 26-27. So the ADMR reduction between 24-25 and 25-26 is 335 cumulative attendance for students. And then we received a correction to our poverty, which was a big financial hit for us this year. And that was for both years, 25-26, 26-27. And that was a reduction of 358. Now those weights are a quarter weight, but it affected the total ADM for a reduction of 480. So when I take the 480 total ADMW times what we're paid per student, per weighted student, 11,577, the reduction we received for our projected 26-27 funding is 5,556,960,000. So that combined with projected increased costs of $5 million is why I had started working with the board at a $10 million deficit. And many things have changed since that in the last few months. We, our HR and business team worked with ODE to correct our teacher experience rating. We had discovered that, in fact, prior HR business people had not kept that up. And so that was a huge benefit to us. It's a number in our funding formula. It resulted in an additional $2 million for the 24-25 rebalancing. And so it also affected 25-26, and it helped offset that poverty because it was an additional $2 million for 25-26. So it increased our ending fund balance where we will end this year. So I was able to subtract that from the $10 million deficit, which means we're one-time spending. So we're spending $4.5 million of our projected general fund ending fund balance, which is one-time funds, to save positions. And then we are projected in the 26-27 budget that we're building to end at the board level of 8%, which is about $11 million. We're also using Medicaid dollars. Many of you know Mari V. She's been working really hard to increase her Medicaid resources. We received additional funds this year, so we increased the FTE in that fund, and it saved us $300,000 in 25, 26, and then we are doing the same in 26, 27, anticipating we will have additional revenue again. And then we have a PERS reserve because we have a PERS cliff coming up where our bond debt service payments do end later than the rate credit. That's a whole long confusing story, but we do have an expensive PERS bill coming and we were trying to save for that. But we are using 300,000 of that reserve to help save positions this year. And that's what we will be proposing to the Budget Committee and to the board to deficit spend in that manner. And Andy has made it a priority as we work on this budget. He wants to improve our reading scores. We've heard that from our board and our math scores. So that's a priority as we build the budget to have that training and to maintain athletics. Andy's always talked about, and he can talk more, that we have to be competitive. So we are not cutting athletic programs. Many districts around us are charging fees next year for students to play. We are not doing that. And extracurricular programs and clubs, we are maintaining all of that. So all of the changes brings us to where we are now at about a $4 million deficit.
Just one quick clarifying question. You said ODU is working with you on a teacher something calculation that increased by 2 million. What was that?
So part of the funding formula, we are paid comparatively to other districts in the state based upon the total teacher experience years that we report to ODE. And what we found was what had been reported for 24-25 had been inaccurate. And so Susie's team worked to correct that, and they opened the collection up, they let us correct that for 24-25 and 25-26. And so going forward, we'll receive that funding.
Is that the penalty that happens if you have too many teachers that have very
No,
low
there's-
number of years of experience?
So we're paid based on the experience because ODE understands the more years of experience that your teachers have, the more higher up they are on the salary schedule.
I just want to make sure I understood what that was. Thank you.
Yeah.
Can I ask a clarifying question?
Yes.
Just hearing about this for the first time, so I want to make sure I understand. We have a financial benefit, as does any district has the opportunity to have a financial benefit if we retain our teachers? In short, or?
It more meets the cost level of having experienced teachers. Like, to have more experienced teachers doesn't gain you additional extra. It kind of judges, you get more if you have a higher experience rating.
The way it was explained to me was basically if a district tried to game the system and always employ people only in the probationary years, then you get a penalty, you don't get as much funding. And so as long as you have a better mix and you're not constantly just getting rid of teachers during those probationary years and you have that mix, then you get the higher rate.
It's sort of like that. We're compared to all districts in the state.
And we've never put any, some districts, I know I was in a district that in the past said nobody more than 7 years,
Yeah.
right? But we will take what we believe is the best teacher.
So this is the financial offer for the salaries for 26-27. We will be presenting to you salary schedules based on a 3.1% COLA. That's based on the March CPIU. If the April CPIU is greater than 3.1, the district will provide a new COLA offer based on that April CPIU. The reason behind this is both our licensed and our administrators' current language is they will receive the highest of 3% up to 5% based upon April CPIU. And it used to be that the CPIU was calculated annually, and we could go in and see every day what it was, and our contract was based on the April CPIU, which usually came out in March. It's now transitioned to a monthly calculation. We won't receive the April CPIU until May 12th.
Yes.
And so that is why we are making the proposal that we are. And then we are also proposing that the BIC positions have not been increased. You would see a COLA has been not been applied to that position line. And the goal is to freeze the salary of those positions that were advanced beyond other positions very similar in duty. For 27-28, our offer is 3 to 5% based upon February Western Region CPIU. We're transitioning to February based upon the change of the calculation. 28-29 is the same, 3 to 5% based upon February Western Region CPIU. So the current 24-27 contract provided COLA increases. The current contract we have, we just went back and I totaled what the COLA increase had been, because when we came, you were behind comparatives when we did an analysis, and it was approximately 18% plus the 6% that was awarded in the last contract. And we did that working with you to move you from being not comparable to being comparable. I remember when I came, we had to work because we had some food service employees at the bottom of the scale that were less than minimum wage. And so it's very important to us that we present an offer that keeps you comparable in total, insurance and salary in total, and is in line with cost of living increases. And that's what we believe we have presented tonight. And in insurance, for 26-27, we are proposing the same cap that is in place in the current contract. We're proposing an HSA contribution increase for those employees who qualify, which is any employee who selects Plan 6 or 7. Currently, it is $25 a month, and it will change to $50 a month. And then we're proposing an insurance committee. I would love to work with insurance committee to look at the dollars so that we can learn together. And we had great success with this where I was in North San Am. We worked with the insurance committee and worked together to look at the plans that were chosen and how the dollars were distributed for the best benefit of the employees in the district. And just an example, plans 1 and 2, there are several employees on those plans. Their out-of-pocket is greater than the benefit they will ever receive. If they had chosen Plan 3, they would save money. So it's just things like that. I would love to, where I'm looking at you, Liz, I'd love to work with a committee and learn together. So that's part of our language we'll be presenting. 27-28, the insurance cap, base cap, and we always, Elisa told me today, always say base cap so you don't confuse it with the pool cap. So the base cap will increase 3.4%, which is the legislative OEBB increase. They're held to that total increase. 28-29 is the same. Questions on that?
I just had one question. So talking about the proposed committee, what would be the makeup of that committee? Who do you propose?
We put that in the language.
Okay.
And so this is just kind of summary, the salary and insurance benefits together. I've already told you kind of what our goal is in doing that. And Jana has done some work for us, put together some comparables, and she's going to walk us through that.
Am I okay to be here? Hopefully you can see. So just a little bit of information to help as we're talking through it today, and also as your members are able to see this presentation in the coming days. This is a comparison of our offer in the first column, the first step and the top step, compared to 7 other comparison districts. And I know we had initially talked about 12, but there are a lot of districts that are in the same position we are and are currently bargaining. So there's only 7 that have salary schedules out for next year that we were able to compare to. And it shows you our offer compared to both the average and the median of those 7 districts. And then on the next slide,
Sorry.
so this just gives you a little bit more information about our total offer and how the insurance piece figures into it. We have gaps at the top, Lebanon and Corvallis. They're our most close, communities that also are near us, and they have their insurance lined out. So Lebanon does not offer pooling, GAPS does, and Corvallis does. So you'll see those numbers in total cap pooled. And what we just wanted to be able to show was how many eligible employees there are, how many are enrolled, and then you'll see the plans on the right. Lebanon offers the same plans to their employees that we offer to ours. Corvallis has a few less. They have an insurance committee, and their insurance committee is the one that decides which plans are offered. And so you'll see they offer a few less than we do. But what's highlighted in yellow for everyone's learning is just what's the most common plan that's chosen by the members in those districts. So you'll see that our plans, typically our employees are choosing much higher and better plans than the other 2 districts. What's notable is that for Corvallis, if their employee were to choose the most common plan, their employees are looking at $200 a month out of pocket, and that's most common for their employees, is about $200 a month out of pocket. Whereas our employees, when they're choosing the most common plan, their out of pocket is 0. So our pooled amount covers significantly more and better plans than the other 2 districts are able to offer their employees, and their employees just are not selecting. If they were to select our plans, they would be even greater out of pocket, whereas our employees right now are able to have 0 out of pocket with what we're offering through the pool. Any questions on those?
You will get this overhead or this presentation because I know those numbers are really small, right? And so, is that the second slide, then you're done?
Yep.
Okay. So one of the things that we see, do you need to add something, Jane? Okay. One of the things that we see is if we have a cap, and I think that's 1908, what are we?
1908.90.
By the time we pool, we have 1908. Corvallis has 1,790 after pooling. If you take the difference between Corvallis's ending number and ours, $120 or whatever, by 12 months, by 550, so for us to be that far above Corvallis, the total cost to the district to be above Corvallis only, we're not talking about Lebanon, is about $800,000. And so, but I want you guys to understand this as well. Corvallis has a better pay scale, but for people to be on full insurance, they give up $200 a month of their pay to be on that. So it's total compensation. And we're happy to answer those questions and continue to have the discussion. But this district has put up quite a bit of money into insurance. And we know last year from food service that many of those people don't qualify for insurance. And so none of that funding that we have invested there benefits them, right? And so it's a challenge, and obviously we're going to bargain it, right? And so we need to think about that. But this is an investment that is fairly hefty for the district. So again, declining enrollment, we're struggling there. Facing over 5.5 million in cuts. The total ADMW, the weighted decline, is creating a large portion of this and increasing costs for the services of the people. We are wanting to do a multi-year offer, 3 years, because one of the great things that can happen there is that there's dependability even in turbulent times, right? You know what your contract's going to be. We want to go with the HSA contribution because we think that that can help incentivize people to think maybe how they can be begin to take some of their pay directly without being taxed into an account that can help offset. And so that's where we're at. Any comments or questions you might have, knowing that we're going to send you the whole PowerPoint? Okay. The final thing I would say is, it's not super enjoyable. The BIC employees, that was pushed through on an MOU. I heard about it at my very first meeting, that there was distress that had been done. I do not believe I can tell you that history. It occurred the year before I got here. But we feel like this is fair because the people who are being paid that to simply cut it, they've built a household budget. They may have taken on expenses related to that. And so we're trying to find a way forward there that is fair to all and yet can help begin to adjust this over time.
So I'd like to take you through 25 and 26, and we'll pass them out. How do I shut that off?
I'll have Kathy come in.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks. Good looking out. Thanks, Kath.
See, looking at the salary schedules, there's a small one. I have amazing staff, and I asked Trinell if she would create the salary schedules for me, and she just thought it would be helpful to see 25, 26 by 26, 27. And so that's what the small print one is, but she did also put the salary schedules in larger print so you could see them. So you have duplicate there.
Those tables are just estimates based on if it was the minimum, the 3%, not.
That's
Fine, yeah,
correct, yeah. So we'll start with Article 25. And the first part, I think we've explained the COLAs. 25.2, we did not change. 25.3, we did not change.
Just a clarifying question.
Yeah,
On 25.1, for the 26-27 school year, you listed 3.1 COLA. In your PowerPoint, it said you're gonna double check. So does that mean that that number could go higher or could go lower or both, either?
it means that number could go higher,
Okay, but it won't go lower.
correct?
Like if Western State CPI is below 3.1, you would not propose below 3.1.
Right.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
I don't think with the Iran situation that is likely.
And one other question, 25.1, the strikeout of the TSA contribution, is that not proposed to go forward?
That's correct. I need to look at that because we didn't intend to take that away.
Good question. Good catch, Angela.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
So 25.4, as we were working on this, we are trying to make it easier for the payroll team, and differentials are cause extra work. So we are proposing in this, we've crossed out 25-4A, and we added a line in the salary schedule for both the special ed drivers and the bus assistants, and we added a 1% increase to the salary schedule. And so the tracking of the students would go away. We've had discussion about this with some of your team at AIM. And so this is our proposal, that 2% differential goes away, and we would add 1% to the salary on the salary schedule. And you can see that we have added that proposal in the salary schedules. The bilingual differential does not lend itself to be added to a salary schedule, so that language remains the same. The food service differential, we had already added that when we had the MOU and the change in duties and had the change in salary schedules for food service. At that time, we added the differential into that salary schedule, so that remains the same. So that language is old and was replaced by that MOU. Lead night custodian differential remains the same. Again, it does not lend itself to be added to a salary schedule. We've tried to clean up the elementary lead custodian. So elementary custodians working in buildings with significant facility usage, large square footage, and responsibility for coordinating the work, because we don't feel like they are supervising, but they are coordinating work. So we wanted to make that clarification. Or of other custodians will be administratively designated as the lead custodian. And so they will continue to, the lead custodian will be paid 2% differential during the 191 days the lead is required. So just cleaning up that language.
Can you describe an example of the difference between coordinating the work versus supervising?
Because in our minds, a supervisor entails components of the job that just supervising the work does not.
But do you have like an example?
Dave, do you have an example?
I think the word, sometimes when they provide supervision, they think of evaluation or evaluating that employees who are trying to steer away from that language because they have no basis on completing the employee's evaluation, but they are responsible for coordinating the work. So it's about mainly who's reporting and who's completing evaluation.
Okay.
We didn't want to confuse those two terms.
Okay, so it would be them not doing any evaluation. I would assume also they would not be hiring or disciplining or firing.
Yeah.
That's right, and they're in the same bargaining unit, so we wouldn't want that to happen.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
I have a question. So I think we might be able to agree that we're talking about the Oak Grove custodian and Meadow Ridge custodian here in this lead portion. Do middle school lead custodians lose any pay, excuse me, over the summer months?
I'd have to check.
They don't, I'll tell you. So I'm curious, what is the difference between what they're doing at Meadow Ridge and Oak Grove versus what the middle school leads are doing?
So Liz, the discussion I remember when we were looking at this language was that they are not working in their buildings doing the same schedule, but they're all working together as a team cleaning buildings during the summer. So that was what I was told the justification for that language was.
Thank you for clarifying.
And then E, we did not change, 25.5. Out of classification, higher work classification, we did not change. We did take away the longevity language because it's no longer applicable. That was replaced with an MOU where we got rid of the longevity in the salary schedules in your last bargaining contract, and so the language doesn't apply.
So are you saying that the wage table just incorporates it, or that an MOU is taking the place of this and that MOU would stay in effect?
Even the last contract eliminated longevity steps. It's now steps 1 through 8, and it used to be step 5. You had to have 15 years to advance.
Yeah.
So this language wasn't applicable and is not applicable. Because the
I'm
salary
asking a-
schedule is steps 1 through 8. There's no longevity step.
I'm asking about the MOU you're referencing, so is
It's
that
an
MOU
old-
still
no.
needed? The
No.
table has it all?
Table has it all.
Okay, got it.
The next changes that we made were 25.7, where we were just cleaning up the pay advance language to match the change in our pay date. Between this language, we had moved our pay date from the last day of the month to the 25th. And so cleaning up the language and changing the dates to work better within the parameters of a pay date on the 25th. So it does not eliminate or change the number of draws, just changes the timing. And we also, on the third paragraph, for a pay advance, submit the form by 1 p.m. on the day prior to the draw being processed. The district will process the request to be paid out the next business day, contingent upon your financial institution. We just wanted to add that because the draws are done ACH and sometimes we meet our requirement, but if it's a credit union or something, sometimes the bank doesn't process it. So just adding that clarification. And that language replaced the next paragraph. So those really just clarify process that we're doing and clean up the language. I don't believe it changes or takes away any benefit. And 25.8, pay step language. This is another one that catching the language up to current practice, because we used to have pay step advance based on a 4% differential, and now we hire and place people according to their experience. And so we're updating the language to reference that practice. And I believe there's an MOU that has this language. So employees advanced to a higher or lower paying job will be placed on the salary step, which aligns with their qualifying years of experience. And so you can see that we take away the 4% and will continue to receive normal step adjustments. And when we were looking at this language with Brian, he even reminded us that that 4% that we used to apply causes pay equity issues. 25.9 paychecks. We no longer have employees who fit into the hired after July 1, 2010. So we're taking away, let me read this. Employees will receive pay through direct deposit. A summary of salary paid will be emailed to employees who are using direct deposit. And it used to say if they're hired after 10, they got direct deposit. Now we're saying all employees will receive direct deposit, which is what they do.
Do you currently have anyone in the classified bargaining unit that does not have direct deposit right now?
I don't believe so.
Okay, thanks.
And the next line, employees will receive their paychecks by 5 p.m. We added the 5 p.m. on the 25th of each day because we have had a couple of times where our bank has delayed it and employees expected it to be there at 12:01 a.m. And so we want the language really clear. We have till 5 p.m. for the banks to process the direct deposit. It's not changing the day. It's just adding clarity for our employees that they know that it could take longer for their bank to process it. Employees who work less than 200 days per year may elect to have their salary divided into 10 equal paychecks. To be provided the 10-month pay option, employees must notify the business department in writing prior to September 15th of each year. So that is our practice. I currently let the business department know, so we just are correcting that. Next paragraph did not change. And this next paragraph we eliminated because our auditor has told us we are not to hold checks over the summer. And so we are eliminating that process. Everyone will receive their checks. 12-month employees who work July through June will receive one direct deposit payment each month. 11-month employees who work August through June will receive 2 payments in June. 10-month employees who work September through June will receive 3 payments in June. And the old language said we would print those paper checks and we would hold them, and that really caused a lot of issues going through our auditing process. And I believe we even have an MOU that we had to do for this. So this is fixing that. 25.11, severance is changed to sick leave incentive because I think it just does a better job of stating the type of benefit that they are receiving. Sick leave is clearer than severance. The next change is in 25.13, employment overpayment. And we're just trying to clarify this to be in compliance with the law. So we've eliminated some of that language.
Well, under the law, doesn't the district have to reach an agreement about the repayment?
Yes, when we're still saying we are going to do that. And
Yeah, it's that Senate Bill 986 that just went into effect this year. It caps, it allows employers to make a deduction for overpayment of up to 5% a check. So it adds some requirements in there. So it eliminates the requirement to have an agreement, I believe, unless you're going to vary from the max 5%. I think so, anyways. I'd want to take a look at that again. But so that SB 986 that went into effect kind of restructured. So we're trying not to recreate this law in the contract itself.
I guess I'm just trying to make sure I understand your proposal, because the way that what you struck out leaves it that the district proposes the plan and then they'll meet with them and then that's it. It doesn't, it leaves it vague as to then, well, then how is it decided?
Yeah, and I think that my understanding of the statute is it's gives the employer the ability to withhold at up to 5% in any paycheck, and anything beyond that would have to be subject to agreement, but it doesn't require agreement to withhold up to 5% in a paycheck.
So your intent is to follow the law?
Correct.
Okay.
And I guess there's some concern about that number 3, that the district and association will negotiate the terms of the repayment, because I don't know that that's consistent with that Senate Bill 986.
Well, if it's over that 5%, then yes, you do have to get an agreement.
The employee, I didn't know that the association could.
Oh, I see.
You see what I'm saying? It says the district and an association will decide and then notify the employee, and the law says the employee has to agree, so
Sure.
it didn't seem like the right 2 parties doing that negotiating.
Thank you for the clarification.
Sure.
25.14, summer pay food service. Food service workers employed during the summer months shall be paid at the rate specific to the position they apply for. And so we will post those positions and people will apply, and if it's the FSA position, they would be paid on the FSA salary schedule, or if it's a lead worker, then they would be paid at that salary schedule. So we felt like it would just make it really clear, and we wouldn't have people doing the same job maybe paid at different pay. So if they weren't paid at the job they're applying for, we talked about if you had a food service manager receiving their same rate of pay doing the work of the FSA, and you had an FSA doing the same work receiving the pay of FSA, we wanted it to be equitable. And we just struck out the word written timesheet changes. Normally, timesheet changes, district will put into place guidelines for buildings and district office how to communicate changes made on timesheets that have been turned into the district. 2516, voluntary reductions, demotions, bumping. When an employee is moved to a lower paying classification as a result of a demotion, a voluntary request of the employee, or through bumping into a lower paying classification as a result of a reduction in force or a downward reclassification of the position, the employee shall be moved into the new pay range at the step that reflects relevant experience. So this is kind of going along with how we place people based upon their experience. And then 25.17, you had already submitted Article 24 to us where you had moved this, and so we are taking it off of this article and it will move to 24.3.
One more clarifying question. On 25.15, timesheet changes, you struck out the word written. So I'm just wondering, why would you not want to put in writing the guidelines that you want people to follow timesheets?
So currently now, we call either the employee if there's a question, or we call the office manager. And so I wasn't really sure what kind of guidelines. This isn't a practice that we currently use. If there's a question or a change in a timesheet, we normally just call the employee, email the employee, and work it out. And so that's why.
So your current practice has not been to follow the CBA that said you had to do it in writing if you're changing someone's timesheet?
So if we have a question and need clarification about the timesheet, we contact the employee who has submitted it.
Okay, so that's clarifying questions.
Yeah.
This talks about changes made on the timesheet,
So we
which
don't-
could constitute wage theft.
Yeah.
So it's like a very serious thing to change someone's timesheet.
Either
So-
way, right?
Sure, but like, I guess, I'm just wondering what your intent is in not doing it in writing when you're changing someone's timesheet.
So I think we just need to clarify it, because what you're speaking to is something totally different than what I'm speaking to. Because we don't change timesheets. We sometimes need clarification because it's not clear to us what they're saying they worked. They've put hours down on a Sunday. We know the training wasn't a Sunday. So what I'm speaking to is correcting the timesheet and getting clarification. You're speaking to something different where we would maybe reduce hours. That doesn't happen. So I think the language needs to be redone.
Yeah, I wasn't speaking to like a random example. I was just reading what the CBA says. The district will put into place written guidelines for buildings and the district office on how to communicate changes made on timesheets that have been turned into the district. So somebody's submitted their timesheet and now changes are being made to it by the district.
Right. And the changes that are made, it should say maybe clarifications and corrections instead of changes. Maybe that would have been a better way to correct this language.
So correction would not be a change to their timesheet? I'm just
Yes, it
genuinely
would.
confused.
Yes, it will be.
Okay.
Or is there a written insurance? Okay.
Could I
They have
just
it.
ask a question? So on 25.16, so if, say I'm a PCA and I'm making, and I'm about the 10-year level, and that job's cut and I'm offered a job as an SCA, does this mean I start as a level 1 as an SCA?
No, it means that it would be based upon your years of experience, qualifying experience.
And how's that determined?
Our HR,
It's two different job descriptions, so how does it determine which one is qualifying versus the other one?
How do you do that? How do you make those determinations?
so HR will look at your experience and place you on the position where your relevant experience says that you should be.
Okay, thanks.
Anything you'd add to that, Susan?
That you see that in a couple of places, and our concern is when we don't place people based on relevant experience, then we have pay equity concerns. So if we have people who are same years of experience in doing the same or similar work, but being paid different rates, boldly says we're not supposed to do that. So we're trying to make pay and placement based on relevant experience, or there's a multitude of factors that you can use under wage and hour law to place people on the salary schedule, but their prior salary is not one of the allowable factors to use to place somebody on a salary schedule.
Right, but there's a system, what I'm really looking at, and this is probably not the place, we'll talk about it. But there's gonna have to be a system where that's arbitrated, where it's just not somebody in the office saying, well, I think it's kind of the same, because some of these job descriptions are so similar. And yet, if I change over, it's a different job description, theoretically, right? Even though 90% of the job may be the same. And so it's that process that I'm concerned about, but that's okay, we'll talk about that later.
Okay. Thank you.
So Article 26, insurance. 26(1)A, employees who work 4 hours to 5.99 hours shall receive 50% of the base cap. So we're just clarifying that language. For medical, dental, or vision insurance, the balance shall be authorized by the employee as a payroll deduction. And the rest of the language just seemed like it was not necessary. Employees have the option of medical only, waiving participation, because we say towards the medical, dental, or vision insurance, it was just redundant stating that again. And then,
Oh, sorry, did you go past letter B?
no.
Okay.
And on B, it's no longer applicable because we don't have employees who are grandfathered into that.
Do you
The-
no longer employ anybody who was hired prior to 1995?
Not who fits that category.
Okay.
And then on 26(1)B, if an employee working in one employment category is hired for additional hours in a bargaining unit position outside of the original category during the school year, September 1 through June 1, and these additional hours cause their work hours to increase to 6 or more, then the employee will receive the full insurance benefit. So it used to say that they would get 50%, and we have not been following that language. If they have bumped up to the 6 hours, we've been placing them on the full insurance. So we're just correcting that to match current practice. Questions on that? And that,
A question. I would ask that you look over your 95 language. The sheet that I have, I show 7 folks who are currently in our list as of May 20th who are hired and work more than 6 hours.
but we did look, Liz, and they were all 8 hours or more. There were none of them who were only 5. So they don't really fit in the grandfather because they're getting full benefits.
Thank you for that. There's one on my list.
And so the next change is 26.2. We changed 8 weeks to be 60 days, which means basically the same thing, but 60 days is the language we use in the business office. So 26.2A. This is the insurance that we referred to in the slide presentation. Base cap remains the same for 26, 27, 3.4%, 27, 28, 3.4% for 28, 29. And then on 26B, the district will continue, I should have changed 25 to 50, sorry about that, per month to an employee's HSA savings account. If the employee has an HSA compliant medical plan and completes the HSA enrollment form, we added that for clarity, provided the contribution would not exceed the legally allowed annual maximum contribution to HSA, we added this language. The employee is responsible to ensure account activities are in compliance with IRS regulations. Also, the employee is responsible for setting up the HSA account during the open enrollment period or the first time an individual is eligible to enroll in insurance. And then on C, pooling dollars. And if an employee of 6 hours or more, and we took away the 5-hour grandfathered language, and that's the only change we made on C. And the last paragraphs of C, we just updated the name to put in Affordable Care Act. Then on D, this is the language on the insurance committee. We call it an Employee Benefits Council because this is the language we used in our licensed contract. And we're setting this up just like we did for the licensed. So a joint insurance committee will meet yearly upon mutual agreement of the GAA's president, the executive director of HR, and the executive director of business. The council will be composed of the GAA's president and 3 classified employees, along with the executive director of business, lead confidential payroll specialist, executive director of human resources, and the human resources administrator. The Employee Benefits Council shall retain the right to select plans of the insurance benefits in planning the insurance coverage. The Employee Benefits Council can, to the extent allowed by state and federal law, reduce the level of coverage or the number of programs provided, elect to payroll deduct disability insurance. Change to a different carrier. We're not allowed to change to a different carrier. We're stuck with OABB. And then we corrected the numbers. And where we saw it, we changed carrier to OEBB. And 26.6 referred to an insurance committee. I wasn't aware that was in there. We changed it to Employees Benefit Council. 26.7, we will follow OFLA, FEMLA, PLO rules and regulations in order to continue its insurance contributions for employees on leave without pay as a result of compensable work-related illness or injury. So we took out the language and we're just going to follow those laws. Again, 26.8, struck out carrier, added OEBB. 2610 talked about the domestic partner. There are IRS laws about taxes, so we will follow that. 2611, we added Employees Benefit Council and took away District Insurance Committee. (2612), this is the opt-out language if an employee opts out of medical insurance. Class of employees who are 0.75 FTE, 6 hours or greater, who meet all the requirements established by OABB to opt out of coverage and who remain covered in an Affordable Care Act compliant employer-sponsored group medical plan are eligible for a district contribution into a standard HRA established for the classified employee. If they're unable to have a standard HRA, they can instead opt to have contribution made to a limited coverage or post-separation HRA. And I took out the language related to the HSA because the district does not offer a HSA as an opt-out. We have HSA for the compliant plans 6 and 7, and so opt-out is just HRA. So just cleaning that up to match our current practice. The amount of the contribution shall be based on what insurance benefits that are opted out of. All classified employees will receive life and self-pay disability insurance as per the classified employee agreement regardless of opt-out status. The employee is responsible to ensure account activities are in compliance with IRS regulations. Also, the employee is responsible for completing the HRA enrollment form and submitting it to the business office. And then on 3, the HRA contribution will be contributed each month employee qualifies. Should say the employee qualifies. And that is insurance.
Thank you. It's a lot of information to go over. At this time, due to our time constraints, and we will hold off on our other proposals to our next session. But we do have one other item of business we'd like to take care of before we adjourn for tonight.
Yeah, so we wanted to make sure that we got you our PCB safety and testing agreement MOU proposal. We are doing this as a joint proposal, so we are going to ask some of our GIA's bargaining team if they can step back, and we have some GIEA folks who will be joining us at the table because this is a joint proposal from both associations. So you don't have to clean up all your stuff, but if you guys can hop back and they can hop in, we only have 10 minutes, so we're hoping we can do this somewhat quickly. And then if one of you can pass these out to folks in the crowd. Thank you.
So I'll respond. We want to meet with you next week to do this. I think Brian is going to talk to Noah this week. We want to establish the bargaining before we participate in the bargaining. So I don't think this is appropriate at this time.
So because we were all here and this is super urgent, that like there's processes already rolling, we want to at least give you a copy of it. If you don't want us to present it, we don't have to present it, but we are legally allowed to give you a proposal at any time, even by email. So we're handing it out now and you
Within
have a copy.
bargaining, though, do you determine that this is already bargaining?
Any party can give the other party a proposal. I could email it to
Okay.
you.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll take it and we'll look at it. Okay, and we'll set a meeting next week to talk.
Okay, you are scheduled to be here for 7 more minutes. Would you like us to explain or present any of it? We did have the GIEA folks
Brian, what are your
take time
thoughts
out
on
tonight.
that, given what I talked?
Highlights of it, maybe?
Sure, we can do it quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll just explain kind of like overall goals of it. And we do have Ken Beiser here as our main point person on this, will be helping. So if you want to give at least some of the highlights, and I can help out as well, and Angela will also be helping.
Oop, there we go. Yeah, absolutely. So in our proposal for the MOU, we have outlined different types of testing for the PCBs, what that looks like, and the numbers that are in there too. Ongoing safety steps based on the detection of PCBs. So we've outlined some things that we would like to see happen if anything does come up in that testing.
Yeah, and one of the key pieces just right at the beginning of it is talking about verification of the removal of all PCP ballasts. The info request that we submitted months ago, you're supposed to respond within 14 days, has not been responded to. So we need the rest of the information. As it stands right now, all we have is a document that shows us where PCB containing ballast were found, but we don't have any evidence that in 2005 they were actually removed. And our understanding is a removal effort did occur, but those documents have not been provided to us. So under number 1, first is verification that all of them have been removed. So that's a pretty important piece. And then the other piece I want to emphasize is the levels that are used for saying we've detected it versus like, okay, we actually have to take action. And the parts per million for the dust, we're basing it on the regional
Remedial waste.
EPA soil amounts, because dust is a particulate. And then the other piece is on the second page, under air testing, the amounts of 30, 60, and 100 are based on pre-K, kindergarten through 6th, and then 7th to adults. There is one state, Vermont, that has actually looked at how do PCPs impact children. The other amounts that are out there are based on industrial hygienists looking at workplaces that have adults. Our workplaces have children. So these amounts are based on that, like a child's body absorbs it at higher rates. And so we need those rates that Vermont has set is what we're asking for. So I want to emphasize that piece. And then the last thing I would just highlight that's very important is that we've gotten notice that some work is being done on lights or being removed with South Albany with the pool. And in here, and we've already issued you legal notice that if anything is removed that might be containing PCPs, that the district hold on to that evidence and not like make that evidence disappear. It needs to be made available. So there's proper EPA guidelines for removal and like storage, but not to have that stuff just disappear. So those are some of the most urgent items I want to emphasize.
So the only thing that we would say is, we know that you did dust testing and you sent them to a lab. One of the things that the HOS, the Healthy and Safe School Plans, says is you must provide for a viable, accredited testing institution, laboratory to do that. And we have never received anything from you, from a lab, that shows the results.
So that was the very initial basic screening to trigger the need to do the comprehensive testing, which is this proposal.
So the
and
only
the
thing I'm gonna
state
say-
has authorized funds to do that testing, and you guys have
Happy to
agreed that
talk
you would go ahead
further.
and apply for those funds. So I think like we're on the same page right now about, doing the more expansive testing.
I don't think we are completely. I think one of the things we'd like to see is the sheet of results from the lab and not you guys typing it. We would like to examine those. We want to see that a scientist can look at another scientist's work and do that. The only reason that I have been given that we don't have those is that there is some sneak attack on Monsanto. We would like those results to take care of these buildings.
Okay, I don't believe that we're in any violation of any law as the association. However, the district is. The district right now has violated the law by not providing the information requested under the 14 days of what remedy was done in 2005 and the complete results of your air testing, which you are compelled as a public entity and under PECBA to provide to us. So I would say at this point, your lawyer should definitely talk to our lawyer. We just hope you'll take this MOU proposal seriously
look
and
at
take
it.
a look at it.
We'll look at it. Thank you.
All right, thank you.